Bobby, so great to have you here.
Good to be here, thanks.
You know how much I appreciate the work that you do and the contribution you've made to our industry. So to have you share with the candidates for the pain-free movement specialist some of your insight is extremely valuable for all of us. You know how people in our industry are ideally hungry for education and growth, yet what they do is they find themselves slipping back into their comfort zones with what they do, and ultimately the professional growth and their ability to really move forward in a lot of ways is detracted from because they sort of have this fear, or would you call it fear, why they just can't kind of make huge leaps in their progress?
Well, I'm not really sure if fear is a root cause or it's a consequence of a series of misses. And by misses, I don't mean that you set out to do something and it doesn't exactly work out well, because that's called life, isn't it? But I'm talking about misperceptions, misrepresentation, misalignment, and misunderstanding. And let me unpack that a little bit, because there's a lot of misses we just went over.
Yes.
So first is misunderstanding. There's a lot of misunderstandings around what we do and what we're responsible for. And I remember in one company I was consulting for, we had a debate about this. You're responsible for effort, not outcome. Because you see your clients, let's say you have a client who comes in and they see you 3 hours a week. Now, what do you call a client who trains 3 times a week and never misses? Well, that type of miss is great because they're a loyal client. We would all want that type of client. But understand, that's a client you see just under 2% of the week. What do you do now with the other 165 hours in the week where they can undo everything you're trying to do? So you're responsible for putting in the effort, for giving all of the encouragement, for facilitating the process, for educating yourself, developing subject matter expertise that helps them get the information and resources to be at their most resourceful in closing the gap between where they are and where they want to be. But you're not responsible for outcome. You're not only not responsible for your client's outcome, you're not responsible for your own outcome. And this is a very big misconception about success. This whole just do it philosophy. The only thing that matters is the end result. Well, end results are brought about by processes. You don't achieve results by thinking about results. And a lot of times people think just single-mindedly about the result. And when the result fails to show up, as it most often does, because it's about ratios, we don't have an ingrained process. So we get frustrated, and more than frustrated, we get confused. And confused people do nothing. That's a lot of anxiety. But when you have a process, you don't need to take it personal, and you don't misinterpret what a miss means. A failure is a single isolated event. It's not necessarily a person, right? You know what I mean? And when you have a process, there's 1 to 2 things that's going to happen logically. What you expect to have happen is going to occur. Or what you expected to have happen is not going to occur. But now you can look back and say, which phase of the process broke down? When you don't have that, all you have is pontification. All you have is a lot of guesswork, and what you're left with is a lot of anxiety. And the biochemical synaptic changes in the brain as a result of prolonged anxiety do not enhance our ability to perform. Second miss that we have is misalignment. So many times people want to get good because they think they should. And there's so many messages coming at you today on social media and competing for your mind share, and it basically says, well, you're not doing well enough. You're not rich enough, you don't have enough clients, you're not good looking enough, you're not tall enough, you're not educated enough, or you've got the wrong education, and we wind up fighting one another over who's right rather than what's right for our population. You don't produce results by focusing on results. Like if we went, if you were my basketball coach and during a game, I just had a horrible game. And I came to you and I said, Coach Carey, what do I do? And you said, well, Bobby, I'm going to give you some advice. You see this ball? You're going to put this ball in that net more of the time. Well, thanks, Coach Obvious. That's amazing. Most useless piece of information I've ever gotten. Kind of like when we told people, eat less and move more. That worked out pretty well.
Right.
But it's the same thing. So we get so caught up in what we're producing, we don't really focus on the process we're engaging in. And a lot of times we focus on outcomes based on what we should want rather than what we're truly passionate about. And the bottom line is people do what they value. So when you're not aligned, you can want it really badly, you can be disciplined, you can have willpower. You're going to engage in a constant struggle and never-ending battle with yourself. A battle you're going to eventually lose. And we don't see this as much maybe in this industry, but think about somebody who was a musician as a kid, right? But their dad was, I don't know, a real estate agent, accountant, lawyer, whatever, long family history, and there was a lot of pressure. So what do? You go to school, you earn a degree, probably a couple of degrees, and you invest a few decades working from 8 to faint every day in a dream that's not even your own, working off a script for your own life that you didn't even have a hand in writing, and then you have a midlife crisis, you have a breakdown, you go out and buy a Porsche. It's the only thing left to do, isn't it?
Right.
So you got to ask yourself, who do I want to be in the industry, or where do I want to be? Those are important questions, but what do I value most? Not only what do I want to give, but what do I get out of this? Do I get a feeling of contribution? Do I get a feeling of security? Not just financial security, but emotional security, knowing that I'm doing something that I value and other people value as well. So what are your top values?